Turning now to politics, a debt ceiling agreement has been reached, but now the real work seems to be beginning as both sides scramble to get this deal done and across the finish line. Here to break it all down for us, Caroline Heldman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. Good morning, Caroline.
Good morning, Giselle. Great to see you.
Great to see you. So we were on the precipice of this historic default, and we now have a deal. There are many pundits who believe the American people were dragged through the mud as both sides knew we'd actually get to this place. But break down the deal for us. What did Democrats get and what did Republicans get?
Well, Republicans got the lion's share. Republicans have now an increase in work requirements for safety net programs from 49 to age 54. They also put a stop on any growth or increase in non-defense programs for the next 2 years. Your student loans that you haven't been paying, well, Republicans are going to get you paying those again. So we saw some pretty significant cuts across the board. What Republicans wanted, not entirely, but I would say, Democrats, the big thing they walked away with is that we won't be in this again until 2024, which is after the election, which is actually kind of a big win that folks aren't talking about.
Right, because it does appear optically like a big win right now for McCarthy. So the question is, though, does he have the votes, Caroline? Far-right Republican Congressman Chip Roy claims that McCarthy must have all 9 Republicans on the House Rules Committee. And Roy claims, and a couple of others, are withholding those votes. How does McCarthy whip them into shape, and will he get the votes he needs?
Well, this is where pork comes in, right? I assume we will see, meaning that you're negotiating for various things that you want. So we will see many things added to the package. The Rules Committee is certainly the first kind of hurdle here. And you can actually trace what's happening right now back to what happened with Kevin McCarthy in the speakership. One of the deals that he cut was that he would put Freedom Caucus members, who are the extreme MAGA Republicans, on the Rules Committee. So we knew this was coming. And Chip Roy is right. He has a lot of power right now. So it's likely that we will have to go back to the negotiation table to make even more concessions at this point. But I actually think it will pass. It's just a matter of how it happens and when it happens.
Yeah, those little fine point details. All right, let's talk about poll numbers. President Biden said he only ran in 2020 because he was the only candidate who could defeat Trump. The polls don't show that anymore. Is there a chance he bows out for a younger, more Kennedy-esque-like candidate such as Gavin Newsom, who certainly seems to be positioning himself right now for a run?
I don't think Biden is going to give up power. I just don't. I think the fact that he announced his candidacy is that indication that he plans to run. And, Gavin Newsom is certainly a contender if he decided to put his hat in the ring. But I think it would violate, the protocol of the party. I think he'll probably wait until 2028. But again, 77 weeks out, who knows what will happen between now and then? Biden's just not going to bow out.
All right, but there is a new poll that shows 66% of Americans believe a Biden victory in 2024 would be a disaster for the country. Vice President Kamala Harris's approval ratings are similarly low. So what are the chances that Biden replaces her on the ticket? A quagmire?
I don't think he can replace her on the ticket. I think the optics would be terrible. This is the first woman vice president, the first Black vice president, the first Indian American vice president. I think it would harm the coalition if he did that. I also think, it's important to note that those identities play a role in her low approval ratings. Vice presidents historically haven't done much of anything with the exception of Dick Cheney. It does appear to me, as someone who studies kind of bias, especially in presidential politics and vice presidential politics, that she's facing a lot of that bias. Because when I ask my Republican friends and my Democratic friends, what is it about Harris that you don't like? They can't even tell me what she does because vice presidents don't do a heck of a lot.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Ron DeSantis. He's going to kick off his presidential campaign in Iowa today, already down 30 points in some polls to Trump. But he's finally going after the former president, and I know you've been paying attention to this. He's really attacking him on record, the economy, etc. I know it's early, but is he too far right to win against a Trump?
He's definitely out of step with the American public. If he gets to a general election, he'll be out of step in terms of LGBTQ plus rights. I mean, wildly out of step. Social safety net programs banning books in schools, abortion. It's hard to say whether he could win in a general. Against Trump, he's certainly the best candidate, but as you know, Trump has twice the support in the polls that DeSantis does. It's remarkable, though, how Trump has managed to hold on to his brand. I do think, again, 77 weeks out, but I do think DeSantis is the candidate that it will narrow down to with Trump.
You say DeSantis, and his wife apparently told him to just say DeSantis. We're all getting
say it, and I started to say it properly. I remember Vice President Dick Cheney. It's Cheney, not Cheney, and people just mispronounced it. Made me feel bad for DeSantis.
Right, DeSantis. All right. Last time we spoke, Caroline, you said it is time for Senator Dianne Feinstein to make a legacy decision here. The majority of Democrats and senators seem to believe the very same thing, that she's no longer fit to hold office. A lot of evidence that she's confused. She was confused by Vice President Harris presiding over the Senate, whose responsibility it is to do so. But whose responsibility is it to have her step down, if that's what it comes to?
Well, it's really her decision, obviously, and her family and the folks around her. It would require a 2/3, a supermajority to remove her from the Senate, which would be unprecedented. I don't think they would take that measure. I mean, this is a woman who, was the mayor of San Francisco. She was on the city council and rose to a prominent position after handling the murder of Harvey Milk and George Moscone very well by a fellow city council member. This is someone who passed the assault weapons ban. I mean, her legacy. She was the one who blew the whistle on American torture engagement post 9/11. She has quite a legacy. And at this point in time, again, it really needs to be the folks around her who help her make this decision.
Yeah, tough decision indeed, especially with that immense legacy. All right. Caroline Heldman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. Thank you, as always, for bringing us your perspective on the political headlines of the day. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Giselle.